Good evening, YouTube. This is Mr. Rolldaddy here, and it's that week in February, Super Bowl week. Purple ties on, and I'm really looking forward to what I think should be another really great Super Bowl. Who do I have winning all? Let's get going. All right, here we are. Mr. Rolldaddy's Super Bowl 57 analysts. Kansas City Chiefs versus Philadelphia Eagles. So, before we get started, I have an important note to share. So, no part of this video should be taken as sports betting advice for any forms of sports betting. This counts towards anything you can place bets on in any aspect of the game. I assume no responsibility for any financial or other losses of which you incur by sports betting. If you choose to place any bets, please play responsibly and ensure you are eligible for doing so in your jurisdiction. Now, let's get started here. So, I've already known for a week who I'm picking to win this game. Though I think both teams have such a great chance. And I'm going to start out by saying why I'm optimistic about the Chiefs and why I'm concerned about the Chiefs, what they have to do to win, and same with the Eagles, why I'm optimistic about them and why I have concerns about them, what I think the Eagles must do to win, and who I ultimately believe is going to win the game. So stay tuned to the end of the video, as I believe I've got the right pick. So, let's get going. All right, turning it into different colors. My first hope for the Chiefs, it's the obvious. They got an all-world quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, come on. This is pretty obvious. Mahomes, I mean, he's not here again by accident. He's already cemented himself as an all-time great quarterback. He will keep the Chiefs in this game. And whenever Patrick Mahomes is in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs have a chance at winning. He's a very tough player. He is a very smart player. He just knows how to get things done. So that can give the Chiefs some hope here. Now, my second hope for the Chiefs, the rest of the offense. So, unlike the previous Chiefs Super Bowl 2 years ago, there's one unit that is miles better, and that is the offensive line. Mahomes, he has all the pieces there at every spot on the offensive line. Chiefs have greatly revamped that group over the past 2 years. Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, none of those guys, I mean, they weren't there 2 years ago when the Chiefs' offensive line just got destroyed by the Buccaneers. They said never again, and they made sure the offensive line became a priority. Now, Mahomes has also had a lot of mixtures playing running back and wide receiver. He's had multiple guys at those positions over this year. And obviously, Mahomes, he lost Tyreek Hill. That was really a big concern for me. But the thing is, Mahomes has done great with whoever he's got their wide receiver and running back. His numbers have been spectacular. Now, a third hope I've got for the Chiefs. I'm going to call their defense beyond solid. So this year, Chiefs were in the top half of the league in yards allowed per game, total yards, and then points allowed per game. And reminder, Chiefs have won against offenses featuring some of the game's best quarterbacks of this time. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, both of them twice, Joe Burrow, Geno Smith, and Tom Brady. Those are some of the quarterbacks they defeated this year. And look, Chris Jones, he is still that wrecking force at the D tackle position. If you can get a great defensive tackle like Chris Jones, then you will have an advantage a lot of teams don't have. And another big thing is, yes, I mean, Chris Jones, that's their big name on defense, but even the lesser-known guys at other spots, they still do well, and they get that job done. So, the Chiefs, they are really competitive, have a ton of firepower on the defensive side of the ball as well. That can really give them some advantages this weekend. Now, my first concern for the Chiefs, all the injuries. Now, obviously, Patrick Mahomes and his ankle injury. He's looked a little hobbled ever since he came back in that Jacksonville game when he got hurt. However, it's not my only concern, and I'm going to say maybe not even my biggest concern, because Mahomes has had multiple of his wide receivers that are on the injury list. And look, some of them are dealing with lower body injuries, and that's a really huge deal if a wide receiver, even if they can play, it's a huge deal because it can really affect how a receiver does the route running, can affect their speed, really can affect to the game of the wide receiver. So those guys at the wide receiver position, I'm hoping that they have rested up because they have really needed to rest up. Because, again, those injuries to wide receivers, especially if it's on the lower body, can affect their game quite a bit. Now, here's my second concern for the Chiefs. Can they contain all the Eagles' weapons? Now, the Chiefs, I've liked their defense, but I have seen one thing in common with recent games that they've lost over these past 2 years. So, most of those teams they've lost to have had a plethora of offensive weapons. So, and I'm not just talking about great quarterbacks, but teams that have great quarterbacks and then have more at running back and wide receiver, maybe even tight end. Some of them, a lot of talent on the offensive line. And Philadelphia is a stacked, and I mean stacked, offensive team. So, is this going to prove to be too much? Taking on A.J. Brown and all those guys that I have listed. It honestly could be, but it's up to the Chiefs to make sure they slow the Eagles down. Now, my third concern for the Chiefs, can the defensive linemen get a push? Because, again, Eagles are pretty stacked on offense, but I really like their offensive line. So, 10-plus year Eagle veterans, Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, those are the best threats, but they got some solid guys on the other sides of the offensive line as well. And, how are the defensive linemen going to get a push up front against this great offensive line? And I'm talking about everybody here. So, if they cannot, if they can't get a push, which I know even some of the best defenses, they struggle against these top-tier offensive lines. That's something they end up struggling with. I think it can really ultimately affect the Chiefs' game because getting pressure in the trenches, I think it's really going to go a bigger way than a lot of people think in this game. Now, what I think the Chiefs need to do to win the Super Bowl, just let Mahomes play the game we know. Be that gunsling quarterback, but call some running plays to just catch the defense off guard. Make sure the O-line's at the top of their game. And you got to ensure defense is prepared for anything. And whoever is playing wide receiver, make sure they're all ready to go to run routes. Because, again, route running is going a long way this game. Now, on to the Eagles. Here's my first hope for the Eagles. They win games, and they win by big margins. I'm not going to go ahead and explain all these numbers, but look. 6 other 16 wins. The final score was won by 3 or more possessions. And yes, that obviously includes both their playoff games. And Philadelphia, on multiple occasions, they've just put teams away early and never have looked back. And look, even if it was not a 3-plus possession game, Eagles, they just showed that poise to fight through a tough battle until the very end. And if Philadelphia gets that right momentum their way early, it may just become a runaway game for them. Now, second hope for the Eagles, obviously, their offense. Again, I already kind of went into that, but Eagles just have a lot of guys out there on the offense. And the big thing that I want to emphasize on is they know how to score and keep themselves in the game any week. Jalen Hurts, oh my God. I can't believe how great this guy has become. And he's going to give the Eagles quite an advantage with his unique skill set of passing and running. Now, Here's my third hope for the Eagles. Their defense, on most cases, they just get things done. The thing I love about this defense is the Eagles play a lot of veteran players, but they also play a good amount of rookie players too. And whoever needs to step up, I mean, they just get guys to step up on defense. So this is really quite a scary defense for any team to face, given that they can play rookies and veterans at such a high level so well. Now, my first concern for the Eagles. Did these guys have it too easy? So it's pretty much self-explanatory. Their 2 playoff wins, I mean, they were by wide margins against the Giants and the 49ers. But again, I think that Giants team, they were just a few years ahead of their time. And I still think, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm impressed by the Giants and what they did. I never expected them to do that this year, but I still think they're a little underdeveloped. And they had in the NFC Championship game, I mean, the 49ers, they're one of the best teams in all of football, but they played that game with against either a 4th-string journeyman quarterback or the great rookie, but who eventually was forced to play most of the game with obviously a very serious injury to his throwing elbow. And that really limited what the 49ers could do. We all saw that. So they were limited. Now, my second concern for the Eagles. They still have given up some points to great offenses. So when they played the Packers and Cowboys, they allowed 33 or more points this year. And even against the Lions and Commanders, they got burned by some mid-level quarterbacks. As great as I think their defense is, they just weren't playing at their best level in those games. They're vulnerable to giving up a lot of points sometimes, and this just makes me wonder, how are they going to do against Patrick Mahomes? Now, a big concern I've got for the Eagles here. Not enough Super Bowl experience. Yes, I know it was just 5 years ago when they won that great Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, but only 7 of those players still remain. But the thing is, yes, I mean, don't get me wrong. I totally get it's hard to retain a team, especially after winning a championship, but they don't have any offensive skill positions left from that 2017 Super Bowl. And out of those 7 players, one of them is a kicker who is so easy to retain if the kicker does their job well, and the other player suffered a season-ending injury, so they really only have 5 guys who are really just, good to keep. I mean, obviously those 2 are good to keep around, but 5 guys at the positions that are really necessary to be kept around and that are still playing. And Chiefs, I mean, they won that Super Bowl in 2019. They have at least 12 players playing. And plus, the big thing is quarterback number 1 receiver connection, which in this case for the Chiefs, of course, is a tight end. I mean, that's too notable of a player retention. And because, look, the quarterback and top receiver, if they make multiple Super Bowls together, that is very dangerous for that other team facing them. And because those guys, they know how to play in the Super Bowl. They know how to connect in the Super Bowl. They know how to get that job done. So, what I believe the Eagles ultimately must do to win Super Bowl 57. I'm going to say, I mean, Jalen Hurts, he's been a great passer. He's improved as a passer, but use his rushing ability to gain an advantage. Don't be afraid to just select 1 or 2 of those receivers and have them be more of a decoy than a receiving threat this week. Because I think the Eagles, if they use an option offense, that may really go a long ways against the defense. Now, I'm also going to say Philadelphia should have defenders lined up everywhere and ready, because Mahomes, I mean, I've seen a lot of Chiefs games over these past 5 years because, of course, a lot of them are in prime time, and he does so well with spreading the ball short, middle, and deep, and running the ball. Be prepared for any throw Mahomes will make. And a big thing for the Eagles, win those battles on both the offensive and defensive line, because trench wars are going a long way this game. I really think the team that just gets the better pushes on both offensive and defensive lines will win the game. Or it really could be a factor outside of the offensive playmakers at the very least. And again, as I was saying, the Eagles have to be ready for anything Mahomes does. Just be sure that defense is confident with their play recognition. Plus, I think for the Eagles to win, they got to do something spectacular in defense, which is generate turnovers and win the turnover battles. Because if the Eagles want to stop an all-time great quarterback, they got to make sure they get the ball away from him and don't let him keep that ball. So get those turnovers is what I'm going to say for the Eagles here. Now, I really thought about this and thought about who I was more impressed by in the victories over playoffs and who I was more concerned about in victories over the playoffs. Chiefs, they had some really close battles, but the Eagles, though, they blew teams out. Both teams are very impressive, and, both of those guys impressed me very much, and I'm not going to be shocked seeing whoever wins, because there's a lot both teams can do to win, but only one team can be the winner of the Super Bowl, and, it's coming down to this. For these reasons, this is who I am picking to win the Super Bowl. You will see. You will see based off of the color of the next slide in an instant. So, here we go. The moment you've all been waiting for. This next color of this next slide. It's going to tell you all about who I think is winning this game. And now, the Kansas City Chiefs will win Super Bowl 57. I'm thinking it's 35-34, becomes an all-time classic. And look, I think Patrick Mahomes is just too good of a quarterback not to win a second Super Bowl. And look, it's great. It's great if the Eagles that the Eagles won by wide margins, but I think Philadelphia had it a little too easy, and I'm going to say the Chiefs are more battle-tested and more battle-ready to go. And, again, you can't ignore the Chiefs' previous Super Bowl experience. They have a lot of guys who have played in a Super Bowl or two. And, honestly, in my mind, the Chiefs are just better set up now to win a Super Bowl than the Eagles are. I really could see Jalen Hurts bringing a title to Philadelphia, but I'm just not thinking it's going to be this year. I'm really thinking the Chiefs are just too good of a team right now to ignore. And plus the coaching advantage. Nick Sirianni, great coach. I respect him tremendously for the job he's done. But you're going up against Andy Reid, who has had more than 2 decades of head coaching experience, and plus even before that, he was an assistant coach in the NFL for quite a long time. I think that's going to help out the Chiefs quite a bit. Thank you so much for watching. Let's go have a great Super Bowl Sunday and enjoy the game.